Good evening, everyone. Thank you. Love to see this mega turnout. And I think when we were seeing the registrations come in for the event, we were pleasantly surprised to see so many people excited about the space tech sector. Augurs very well for this space if there are so many bright minds looking to build businesses in the space tech area. I'll quickly introduce everybody on the panel and then we'll get to it. I'm Mayank. I'm a partner at Elevation Capital. We're an early stage venture fund investing across sectors. I lead our investments in a whole host of sectors, space being one of them. We are investors in PierSight. Gaurav is here. We invest anywhere between 500,000 to 30 million across different stages of the company. Arin here, he is a co-founder of Inspacity. I asked him how do I pronounce this right. So they are building a company in the space inspection and repair services market. Brijesh is here. I guess all of you know him. If you don't know him, then you should know him for sure. He's what is called the Sutradhar of India's space startup system. Brijesh is the deputy director at InSpace. I'll let him talk more about InSpace, but they're an autonomous nodal agency that helps startups connect with ISRO. And Gaurav is the co-founder of PierSight. They are a SAR plus AIS satellite company building in the persistent maritime monitoring space. So I'll quickly get started and maybe start with the origin story. For you, Gaurav and Arin, I think what will be very helpful to hear is what inspired you to go after this sector? And within that, what inspired you to go after the problem that you are solving? For you, maritime monitoring, for you, satellite inspection and services. What was the sort of the seed that came to your mind to build in this sector?
Yeah. So just to start with, for a background, so I used to work at ISRO for about 10 years. And before that was a graduate from IIST. And around 2021, we saw the private sector come up in India. Great companies like Satshare or Pixel were already out there. So there was a thought in me that, having seen the complete cycle of SAR satellites being built from scratch, we are very well poised to go out in the industry and build. So saw that as a great opportunity. And then secondly, in terms of specific thing, why maritime, right? So SAR satellites have been there for the past 2 decades, and what we say that they can see through clouds and image at night time, right? So which makes them a perfect candidate for maritime surveillance. However, there was a bottleneck there that most of these SAR satellites are put into a sun-synchronous orbit such that they only come over an area at 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. So though we say we have capability of seeing at night time, we really don't, because the orbit is configured like that. So I had a problem with it, thought it can be very well solved by making a simpler design, which is very application specific, and will also cover the white space of maritime domain. So that's how PierSight started.
Fabulous. Arin, maybe you want to share your story.
None. So I'm Arin. I'm from IIT Bombay and Inspacity. Yeah, so I think this is a confusing place because there are investors and a bunch of enthusiastic people. So I'm torn because in front of investors, I don't talk about the bigger picture. I only talk about the targeted niche picture. But I think I'll go out on a limb. It's, I think,
absolutely,
a
discussion. Absolutely.
Yeah, right. So Inspacity is really that simple, in space city. So we do want to build a city in space or habitats in space. But the simplest thought was when I started putting the story together and started putting the technology together, definitely did not see all of the steps towards it. But I did realize that we would need a lot of autonomous capabilities to build anything in space. And when I looked around again and the way that we were operating in space, where we throw a lot of material at space now, and we are not really doing it the right way. Humanity never does it the right way. We just go about doing things and later figure out what could be done to make things more sustainable. So that is where I felt there was a huge kind of gap opening up where we don't know how to operate in space. We know how to launch, we know how to build, we don't know how to operate. And that is where the thought process that whatever autonomous or semi-autonomous structures that I needed in space are also directly applicable in today's world. There's a huge need for, making sure what we are doing up there doesn't lead to a Kessler syndrome and doesn't really break up everything, and we are stuck here on Earth being a type 0 or a negative something something civilization all our lives. That not be cool. Hence, that was the inspiration behind building these things. So the offering is very simple. It's a robotic servicing vehicle that allows you to extend the life of your asset in space. As usual, if you have assets that are very cheap to build, then at this moment, I don't have a solution for you. If you have assets that are really costly and it's hurting you, you would want to defer your capex deployment more and more, and you're in trouble, do call me. Right. That's the idea.
Thank you. Very helpful. Brijesh, coming to you, I think everybody would be delighted to hear all the good things that InSpace is doing. And maybe if you can share what is InSpace, how is it helping the India space startup ecosystem?
Good evening. Thank you, Mayank and Elevation and Pi Ventures for having me here. Okay, InSpace is also one of the startup that was born in year 2000. Government of India took the historic decision in year 2000 and announced the reforms in the space sector, where private sector can build, launch and operate the satellites. And to do this activity, where to bring out all the people, enable them, government created the InSpace. InSpace is Indian National Space Promotion and Authorization Center. I think most of the startups and industry people, those who have come here, somehow they are already connected with the InSpace. And specifically, I have troubled a lot of startups also, because I am asking them about what support they are seeking from InSpace to enable them, or connecting them, those startups, with the industry or other events. So to cut short the story, InSpace is the facilitator and enabler and the authorizer for the space, where private sector can be enabled to take up the space activities in India. So now we have done a lot of activities that during the discussion further we will take it, where from the bottom lowest point to the highest point, we have considered each and every aspects to enable and grow this overall space ecosystem in India.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Since the title of this panel is Zero to Orbit, maybe let's start with day zero, which is Arun and Gaurav, you had an idea, but that needs validation. It's an idea that you feel very strongly about, you have that sort of confidence, but you would need validation. Would love to just hear from you on how did you go about the early days of validating the technology, the solution that you're thinking of, and did more specifically potential customer conversations play a role in how you build confidence for yourself that this is something that I want to chase? Maybe.
You want me to start? Yeah. So for me, the customer validation was where it started. As I was saying, I saw this as an open problem statement even during my days in ISRO, and realized this can be solved by a large private constellation. So it was very, very clear in terms of the problem. Now in terms of the validation, I think the Techstars Space Accelerator really helped. So we joined the Techstars Space Accelerator very initially in our early stages, which runs in partnership with NASA, JPL, as well as US Space Force. So, when someone in ISRO comes out with an idea, someone from JPL validates it, that gives you also a confidence that, okay, that's another industry leader who has come in and vetted that idea. And US Space Force vetted it in terms of the requirements part of it. So that Space Accelerator was really a good catalyst at the early stage. And incidentally for us, it was right at the beginning of our journey.
Got it.
Okay, I have a very different take from my side. Anybody and everybody I talked to said that don't do this. Right. I mean, what are you doing? I mean, it seems crazy. You're trying a moon landing and the moon is really tiny and it's moving around very fast. You want to land on this? Why? And how? And what would come out of it? So it was a little bit disappointing to talk to, industry to a degree who, in India especially, we didn't have a, big presence. But when we went to some of these international conferences and we talked about it to a degree, I did not sense that excitement immediately. The need is there, but is it really going to happen? Was the thought process, right? The validation came more from the ecosystem as a whole. So there are several companies across the world. One of them, if you saw, there is a unicorn in the space services side. That's Astroscale, right? That IPO'd in Japan, and that follows exactly the same philosophy, but at the other end where it's about active debris removal. Right. So in some way, some of those gave confidence. An event by Northrop Grumman of servicing an Intelsat satellite in space in 2020 gave me further confidence. So those were like the spikes that came through. Otherwise, the ecosystem was pretty depressing in some way. Yeah.
Wow, so two diametrically opposite stories and great outcomes. Uh, okay, maybe Brajesh would love to hear from you. Just if a startup is at that stage, zero stage, we have an idea. What are the government resources available for them to first validate the idea and technology, and then are there resources available to help build that technology in those early days?
I think our PierSight Gaurav is beneficially to convert that idea to the product.
I knew the answer. That's why.
Yeah. I will just, for the help of the wider audience, I will tell. Okay, in space as a facilitator, now they can. We are the people through which the industry startups has to be connected with the ISRO. So now the capital intensive facilities, the knowledge, it is available with ISRO. Now, if any idea is there, if it has to bring, we have to convert into the product, then definitely they have to be connected with ISRO. So, number one, the facilitation part, where if any startup industry wants to use the ISRO facilities, they can approach InSpace, and InSpace will, our team, dedicated team is there, they will connect with the ISRO, number one. Number two, we have announced few programs also, that is the step-by-step programs. Like if we see we have announced some competition that is for college students, though it is not here for this audience, it is not applicable. But by announcing and conducting those competition, the interest towards the space technology is being developed, number one. After that, we have announced one pre-incubation entrepreneurship program where the idea will be converted into the prototype. Then next it is seed fund program. Where's in the seed fund program, we are announcing the sector specific announcement where our startups can participate, and we are giving up to 1 crore seed fund. And after that, there is the now recently 1,000 crore VC fund. It is announced. So this is the one of the process from college to business level one can reach. In addition to that, we have the mentorship where if you in our website there is a resident expert page, it is there. So any Indian can approach there, go there, and get their services free of cost. Only they have to get they have to take care of their travel if they are coming to their premises. In addition to that, we have the technical center, which is at our headquarter. So startups can, there we have established the software, some 13 high fidelity softwares are there. With the help of those softwares, they can design and develop their products, and later they can test their system, and even small satellites also can be tested. So this is the way by which the startups are being helped to by the in space.
Fabulous. No, I can vouch for that. PierSight is definitely been a big beneficiary of the services that were provided. I also want to touch upon the other element, the other T. Technology is one. The other T of the zero is team, and attracting the right kind of talent to join. Maybe Gaurav, if you want to share, how did you go about identifying and then attracting that talent to join you on this audacious journey?
I think the first 10 to 15 team members, ideally, it's best to get it from your network or extended networks. I mean, this is something I tried recruiting people outside as well, but really what works out best is within your networks. And then, of course, slowly as you go from this 15 to 50 journey, you need to start having better processes. And in terms of how to attract them, very honestly, we didn't do anything too much. I mean, generally people are really, really interested to work into space tech in this country. If you ask anyone, they would love to take this sector up. One thing, but as a company, which we are going out as policy level, is we try to be very, very transparent in terms of what we do. So we have a upcoming technology demonstrator mission going up this month, and we've tried to be very transparent. People who've not seen the page, I'd invite you to check it on our website. In terms of the design, the objectives, the philosophies, we want to whatever we are trying to do, we want to put the complete vision out there, and automatically people who resonate with it will try and approach you.
Arun, how did you build? How did you go about building an early team?
All right, it's a tough game in some way. Building a team is so in my view, I come from the propulsion background, so I'll compare it to a heterogeneous propellant, right? Which has, let's say an oxidizer. So you have a lot of particles of typically ammonium perchlorate. It's solid oxidizer. Then you have binders, which is mostly like Fevicol. So it's like hydroxy-terminated polybutadiene. So in a team, you need a lot of people who are very, very talented, who love space in some way. So those are like the oxidizers. But you also need, binders to bind them together in some way. If all of it is oxidizer, you can only compact it and it will fall apart, right? So I think that's the core of building a team. Structuring every vertical of a team has to start with some of those, interesting people, talented people, bound by people who kind of calm them down when they're agitated. There are a lot of fights breaking out at that time, a lot of ideas kind of, moving around and, gelling well together. So from my side, I had a slight advantage because I have been a prof at IIT Bombay for a long time, and I had always built undergraduate teams. I'm not talking about the PhD or master's teams, which were small projects having their own teams. But at a BTech level, putting that team together and making, a lot of you have been through the BTech journey. So imagine your college days making something, in the lab. So I had some experience getting some products like that. It was very, very frustrating at times because part of the team would just leave and other guys would be, left holding that work. But that taught me the patience that is required to do this. And I was also slightly lucky to be along with a company called Manastu, which came out of the lab and was in the lab for about 6 years or so. So I saw their journey, building the team, making sure everybody was motivated across the period of time, other than, of course, Ashtesh and Tushar playing a very big part in that. So when I joined, or when I created Inspacity, I stand by what Gaurav said, that you can always look to the people around you and see if you can get some of the people that you have already worked with who would be excited to join you. So Tausif, my first PhD student, a lot of my PhD students, lot of my master's students, kind of by hearsay started kind of gathering into Inspacity. And then I needed the binder pool. So local colleges, I definitely did not want anybody out of IIT Bombay immediately, right? So I needed a binder pool that was kind of calming in some way. So that started happening. And then once the process starts, I think, as Gaurav said, once the process starts, when you start looking for more and more talent, one, it automatically reaches out to you if you're doing things that are amazing in some way, and space is always, always amazing. And some part of it, you have to go hunt for people. And I think at the initial days, up to a team strength of 40, 50, it is just a question of having a bunch of talented people along with a bunch of hardworking people that are kind of binding them together. That is it in some way. Right.
Fabulous. I think as investors also, whenever we are evaluating a startup, it's not just the founders, but the initial team that they've built around them, and how well gelled that team and how mission oriented that team is. That is also very, very important. So lovely to hear those stories. Now let's come to capital. Capital is needed to get anything off the ground here, and we'll come to the venture funding world. But maybe Brijesh, I'll ask you first. That you mentioned these couple of programs, the seed program and then the growth program. What are the avenues for capital accessibility that the government is opening up for the space tech startups in India? If you could elaborate on that, because I believe that is also an equally good source of capital as VCs.
As far as capital is there in the space sector. So we all know this space sector, the return takes long time. So capital infusion also, the and space sector is highly means unpredictable. Means we have to have the highly reliable systems and all things. So initial phase, that investment in the space sector is a little resistive. So if you see now, the last year around 130 million investment happened in space sector in India. This year is around 40-50 million. It is there, and we are expecting much investment is going to come. But to give the confidence to the venture capitalists or investors, the recently announced 1,000 crore VC fund, it is the big boost to the industry, and it will give the confidence. When government start investing in its own companies, then it gives the confidence to investors to put money into that. So we are expecting this 1,000 crore will multiply further, and as we all are aware, with the positive feedback and the performance of the industry, this amount is going to increase. Even this in 1,000 crore, our private sector investors also can put the money so that it can further grow this fund. Even we are in touch with many investors. Investors are coming to us. They ask about feedback about the industries. So our investors are very positive about the space sector, but as far as the government is concerned, right now 1,000 crore VC fund is the recent program announced.
Great. I think that's probably one of the most unique government funded program across the world. That's great. Now, Gaurav, maybe you can touch upon the early fundraise journey, the seed round. How did you go about getting yourself prepped to raise that seed round? And I think one of the issues in any technical domain is how deep do you go into the technology, and where do you draw the line and say, okay, this is deep enough, and I don't think the person on the other side of the table will understand beyond this.
Yeah. So I had some fundraising experience in a different way. So even in ISRO, I used to be a systems engineer, where I used to pitch projects like a Venus mission or a Moon mission, which is very similar to a VC investment. You need to convince different committees, and then finally it gets sanctioned. So for me, I mean, though the process is different and seen in a different way, under say it was exactly the same way. End of the day, you need to just get to other person's thought levels and go ahead and explain to them what you're trying to do, right? And if you can do that with an investor, you can easily do that with a customer or a potential employee. The process in a way remains the same. Regarding our fundraise journey, it was kind of long. I mean, speaking to the entire market lasted something around 4 months from basic. But to be fair, we were just starting out, right? Then, so yeah, that was sort of the journey.
How did you think about the initial pitch?
I mean, as I said, it was a very natural thing, something which I used to do there, convey an idea and how it will really be executed. Just try to do the same thing again. And something which really helped was that I was not from this world. As I was telling Manish, I didn't know elevation when I was speaking to elevation for the first time, or any which is a tier 1 VC, which is a tier 2 VC, what is a pre-seed, and how do you really go about it. It was a total clean slate. It didn't matter to me whether the person will write a 10K check or he'll write a 10 million check. My goal was to get out of the room, convincing him, making him a believer into what we are doing. And we consistently kept doing the same thing, irrespective of who the investor is. And I think that kind of worked out.
Arid, a professor raising capital. What was that like?
Okay, I had a trump card in some way, yeah. So I had met Vishesh from Special a while back in my journey. So as part of Manastu at that time, Vishesh had actually come in to kind of visit, and we had a dinner in the Powai area, and it was a very nice dinner, and we had kept in touch. So when I came out and I was just forming my thoughts, I thought, let me just give a call. So I gave a call. And after a 15-20 minute chat, Vishesh said that whatever you're building, I'm in. All right, that was a very strong trump card. And I think at this level, Sunil Kavle from Special, so another potent resource that came along my way. So yeah, that was a cheat code in some way. And Gaurav is underselling. So if you guys have played Age of Empires, I don't know, Gaurav uses an Age of Empires story in there. It's amazing to showcase how SAR is so useful. Right. So the story does play a big role. I don't think technology plays a big role at all in some way. That's a personal opinion. Don't take me up on that and say that, okay, because Prof said so, must be true, so I will also not focus on that at all. I'm just saying that at a deep tech or space tech level, how you are doing it is less important compared to what are you doing, and how is it useful to the ecosystem, and how do you make money out of it, right? So the story should be set accordingly. Typically, all technologically oriented people get very, very oriented towards technology. And I think maybe Prateep is here, so he does an amazing job in not focusing on that side. And I've not heard him pitch, but from the success that he has had, I presume that that is what he has done. Arpan is not here, most probably he would have vouched for me. I know Arpan better. So I think, that should be the focus. How you do it should be more like a magic black box. The more magical it is, I feel that is more interesting in some way. More you try to explain, more you trip over yourself, and more chances of miscommunication happening, right? So better to weave the story around areas that are not going too deep into technology. You should ask for technological experts maybe to do work on you, and ask the investors to kind of invest in that side. And there you can go to town, and both of you can speak the same language.
I'd
So-
like to add a point. I missed it. So, there is always this challenge that to do something, you need money. And once you have money, then only you'll have the team, right? So, this is a constant sort of a vicious cycle in sectors like space tech. So, something's very important here is you need to manifest something and then go ahead and achieve it. So, the part I was talking about, what helped during my experience in ISRO, that was also very similar. You manifest someone, ki, okay, why do you want to go to Venus? Humanity has not seen the planet since 91. If we go there, it's a huge technology demonstrator. We'll understand geology in an entirely different way. How we understand right now is only based on Earth. And then you get money for that. So this is sort of very different compared to other sectors. And also when we were raising, people have parallels. Like, okay, if you're a SaaS company, the general rules, seed round, you should have this million ARR, Series A, this many million ARR. Space tech, there are no other parallels at all out there. So that's when I think the point Darin was also saying, storytelling is very important. You manifest and you really show the end vision, where do you want to get to, and this is the help I need. And one of the part of the helps is capital, and you need it to reach there. Yeah.
Sure, Brajesh.
So a few more investment or funding opportunity from government side. It is like recently announced that ANRF, Anusandhan National Research Fund, I think it is 1 lakh crore, no? Funds of fund, where for critical and emerging technologies development. Then technology development fund that is available at DRDO and DST also. And seed fund scheme of Startup India. So these are the various schemes available our startup can approach for the funding. And in addition to that, we all are aware that space sector uh, it can provide its effect, or every department is connected with the space. So nowadays, what we are seeing, every department was to use the space technologies, and they are also looking for the people, those who can solve their issues and the problem using space.
Great. Uh, Maybe we can talk a little bit about the policy and the regulatory environment. And first, I'll come to the founders. Couple of questions there. How do you think policy has helped scale your business? And second, because it's a sensitive sector, you always need to be on the right side of policy. So how do you draw the line between pushing the envelope but staying compliant with policy?
The Indian space policy that has come out to a degree is very, very, I think, generous at multiple levels. It does not differentiate between government agencies and startups. So that's a very, very positive move. I mean, there are so many barriers to what we are doing in some way. I'm just glad that ISRO is already going and doing this with the SpaceX mission recently. It'll launch hopefully soon. And I know the framework to kind of navigate that. At a defense level, it helps that what we build is very, very necessary for the country's defense in the fourth frontier. Robotic capabilities are, one of the keys to winning some kind of a conflict in space. At a world level, every nationalistic space agency has to give clearance to what we are trying to do. In US, the bar has been set by Northrop Grumman, who demonstrated this, as I told you guys earlier. So there is NOAA, there is FCC that you need clearances from. At the Japan level, it is JAXA, so on and so forth, right? So in this side only, I imagine that the clearances are set in my mind and they can be taken care of. I imagine the other areas, at an Earth observation level or SATCOM level, the policies are not so harsh that they cannot be kind of understood and gone past. Yeah.
Yeah. So Brijesh sir was telling, right? In space is both promotion and authorization agency. So this is a very smart thing. जो वो promote कर रहा है वही authorize भी कर रहा है. So that automatically solves things into certain ways. So yeah, this from that way the policy and the way it has been thought of is super helpful.
Brijesh, in our startup world, there is this saying that regulations are formed only when someone breaks them. How does InSpace help startups when they are on the edge? They're looking to break something which is today regulated. How do you help them navigate the government channels and get the regulations done?
Okay. Whenever any proposal is coming for authorization in space, so that proposal is being studied first internally by in space team, and beyond that, then we have the interministerial committee where the MEA, MHA, DOT, concerned government departments are there. So after taking consideration or their points only, this authorization is provided to the Indian NGEs. So first thing, government side, fully due diligence is being carried out, and after that only authorization is being provided. After that, there is a provision of supervision also. That is also one of the mandate to InSpace. So through that, we are ensuring that they are following the guidelines and the working under that ambit through which that authorization is provided. So this is the mechanism.
Okay. I think we'll leave some time for Q&A from the audience. So before we go there, maybe just one line from the three of you. What would be the advice to the founders or would-be founders or aspirational founders sitting in this group? Some advice that somebody had given you before you started and you would have been happy.
Don't start. So that is from Jensen Huang, not mine. Yeah. I mean, this is super hard. So, I mean, think very, very hard. Do you have the passion to see you through? But at the other end, not being frivolous about this, be very, very frugal in your approach. I think it is hard to raise money anywhere, and it's that much hard to raise money in an industry that Brijesh said that you don't see money coming in for quite a while. Right. So I think that kind of frugality is inbuilt into our ecosystem. We should kind of reflect that and continue in that same direction. That would be my advice in general. Yeah.
Fabulous. Rajesh, right.
Advice is ki believe in our startups. They have enough potential, and they can capture the world. So please invest into our startups.
Yeah. My advice to potential founders would be just be stubborn about what you believe. The only reason you should do a startup is to do it the way you feel is the right thing. So yeah, be stubborn and clear on your thought process and stick to it.
Fabulous. Frugal, ambitious, stubborn. Those are the three qualities that are needed. With that, we'll end the Q&A here and open the floor for anyone in the group to ask any questions.
Okay, I'm Indira and I work from the Harwell Space Cluster in UK. And there are two things that I see which are not really addressed here. Is first thing is the IOSM, in-orbit servicing manufacturing. UK is heavily focusing on the IOSM sector, and they do believe that it's about 350 billion by 2050, and a lot of investment has been going on in that. The other thing is, like you have the in-space, there is an equivalent called Satellite Applications Catapult, which helped the UK Space Agency. And what they have done is, they have come up with these three roadmaps. One is connected autonomous Earth, the other one is beyond Earth, which includes IOSM and others, and something else. And the way they streamline the funding is through the roadmaps. They have identified key technical areas, and that's where they want to be the masters, or that's where they want to lead. I don't see if that's happening here in the Indian space sector. I don't know, I might be wrong. And one more thing I wanted to let you know is, there's something called as the Space Force, right? US, UK, Germany, France, and Australia, they're actively involved in creating the policies. Is Indian space, is it having a table in there, or what's the thought there? Thank you.
Rajesh, please.
After formation of InSpace, one of the initiative InSpace has taken to bring out the decadal vision and strategy for Indian space sector. So where we have identified where we are, where we have to go, what is the capability of our industries, and to achieve those goals, what capacity has to be developed in India. So it was worked on to that, and this is the guiding document for all of us, for people those who are associated with space ecosystem. So we have identified the key technologies where all of has to work. In space has to work as an enabler or the facilitator, but industry, government, investors, everybody has to work to achieve that decadal vision ambition.
Also, I would add, I think we're a little bit earlier in our evolution as a country, as an industry, compared to, let's say, the European Space Agency, NASA. Just from a startup ecosystem point of view, that is an aspiration that we would love to get to. Maybe the path to get to that point will be much faster than some of the other geographies. I think we'll have to give ourselves a little bit of time.
All right. The part that we don't do very well at Inspacity is reach out and tell what are we doing exactly. It reflects very badly that we don't know. We don't know that Inspacity does work a lot in ISAM. I would rephrase it at ISAM, in space servicing, assembly, and manufacturing. There are several companies that are coming into the picture, but before we came along, I think this was not there. Your point is rightly noted that India had not focused on ISAM. Neither did ISRO, neither did DRDO. We picked it up as one of the areas that we wanted to work upon. The passion was very strong there because we want to build in space. And I feel that we have been kind of a trailblazer. After looking at us, people are coming into this space, which is good. Just that I repeat that we have not been very good at, telling what we do. Yeah. Correct. We have very clear missions that we don't communicate, I repeat, very, very well. Right. And India does have a space force. It's called Defense Space Agency under Indian Air Force. They're working day and night to keep us safe in space. That's all I can say. Right.
There's one. Maybe we have time for one.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for a nice presentation. I'm Prasanjit. I'm a founder. I'm working in the connectivity domain. My question is, the product, space product or startup, ecosystem plays a big role. So the ecosystem may be all around supporting ecosystem, manufacturing ecosystem. So I wanted to get a idea how you bring. I mean, apart from building your team, you need to have other say components manufacturer or my software suppliers or this one. So in the early stage of your startup, how do you bring that ecosystem work for you?
Yeah, I'll take that. Yeah. So, one advantage is that ISRO has been there for about 6 decades, and there's a whole ecosystem which has, supported them. So you can very well leverage them. But the only challenge there is that your minimum order quantity (MOQs) are much much lower compared to ISRO. So that is again always a challenge where you need to show them the end vision that with this successful proto mission or technology demonstrator, we will go up and we are set to poised to build several dozens of satellites in the upcoming time. So that's some active way of communication which you need to do with the vendors and make them work with you. So just to summarize, there is an ecosystem, of course, because ISRO has been building things and a lot of private participation is there. The main challenge is to make that ecosystem accept you.
I think Gaurav, you worked with a lot of vendors in the Ahmedabad ecosystem to actually co-develop a lot of the path-breaking products that you were building, which went into the final assembly.
Correct.
Maybe you could talk a little bit about why were they keen to co-develop with you?
Yeah, I mean, so I'll start with an example. There's an institute in Ahmedabad called ATIRA, Ahmedabad Textile Innovation Research Association, started by Vikram Sarabhai. Those of you who have seen Rocket Boys must have seen that particular institution. So it was about textile research, but now they are also into composites. So we have developed a deployable antenna which required these carbon composites to sustain the launch vibrations, right? So we had to, convince them to start working with us, and now we've ensured that even, in our launch marketing, we give them what they really need, right? It's a non-profit, so what they really need is the recognition of the work they do, that they are a center for excellence for composites. So that is one thing we co-developed with them, and we've ensured that it's also put across very transparently to give them the right due credits.
I think we are at time now, and if there are more questions, happy to take them over drinks after the panels. And I want to thank all three of you for sharing your insights on this panel. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.